So in addition to skeletal muscle, we have two other types of muscle. We have cardiac muscle, and this is found only in the heart. This is involuntary. So if you think about it, you don't tell your heart to beat. It actually tells itself to beat, and it has a pacemaker inside of it that tells it when to beat. This is striated, so you can see these striping patterns here. Those are caused by sarcomeres, so the filaments in the cardiac muscle, the actin and the myosin, are organized enough to see those striations. And then one characteristic that you only find in cardiac muscle is these intercalated discs. So these are these large sections here where adjacent heart cells connect. So a single heart cell is going to span between these intercalated discs. So this would all be one cell. So these are no longer like long parallel fibers like the skeletal muscle was. You start to see that these are branching off to make sure that all of this muscle contracts together at once rather than each fiber contracting individually. And we won't go too much into cardiac muscle right now. You're going to go into this more in anatomy and physiology too. The other type of muscle is smooth muscle. So this one does not have striations because the myosin and the actin are not as organized, so it doesn't form a striping pattern. This is also involuntary, meaning that you don't have control over this. So we're often going to use these for transports. This is common to be found in like the walls of other organs, so things like the digestive system, including the stomach and intestines, the esophagus, the arteries and veins in your circulatory system are going to have smooth muscle in the outer area here. So you can see there's two layers of smooth muscle here. This one is the circular layer, so it's going to contract like this. And then this is a longitudinal layer, and it's going to contract long ways along the tube. And smooth muscle can be stimulated by different things. The autonomic nervous system and neurotransmitters, different chemicals, or temperature. One thing that's common is stretch. So when a smooth muscle is stretched, it's also often going to cause it to contract. So this happens in your digestive system. The way your bowels move is because the food bolus gets to your intestines and it stretches those muscles in the lining of the intestine, which as a consequence causes it to contract. So this is a common cause for contraction of smooth muscle. And then some of them have a degree of autorhythmicity, meaning that they are able to regulate their own contraction. Smooth muscle often puckers and twists during contraction because it doesn't have organized sarcomeres. So you can see the myosin and the actin here. And when these are going to contract, the muscle is going to shorten, but these other intermediate filaments cause the shape to change. So this isn't kind of just shortening along a long axis. It shortens and then puckers due to those filaments. Stretch is common for movement of something through a tube. So peristalsis is the act of moving food along this tube. This is common in the esophagus and the intestines. So the way this works, think about if you were hung upside down and you were fed food and you swallowed that food. Would that food make it to your stomach? Don't try this at home. But it would. You could hang upside down and eat. Once you got it past the back of your throat, your esophagus is lined with smooth muscle and it does this process of peristalsis. So wherever the food is, it stretches out that part of the tube, and then that part of the tube is going to contract and continue to push this food all the way down. You might get some acid reflux if you're hanging upside down, but the food will still eventually make it to the stomach. So take a minute and contrast between cardiac and smooth muscle and how they differ from skeletal muscle.